Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. That seems to be quite good volume. Everybody have a seat if they so choose to have a seat. NunatuKavut. Good day, everyone. Tad Avunga. My name is Tad, President of the NunatuKavut Community Council. It's an honor to be with you today, to be in your company, to be one with you on this very, very important and significant occasion. I say Atili Hi, welcome. Welcome to this place. It is an honor really to be present. And when I say present, I mean present. I am with you. Everybody here is together as one, as a people. It is so important that we mark this historic day. A historic day here in Cartwright, in NunatuKavut, in Labrador, in this province, and in this country. And I thank you all. I thank you all for being here. I know that this may be a difficult day for many, and I commend each and every one for their courage in being here to be a witness. I want to acknowledge that we are on our traditional and ancestral lands. We are gathered in our own place. It's a beautiful thing to gather on your own land with your own people and with friends. We are witnessing today on these lands, on these very same lands that have been passed down to us from our Inuit ancestors. We today still travel the old travel routes over the same lands and waters, and yes, on ice. We still fish in the same places. We still hunt. This is our culture. This is where we come from. We still pick berries. We still provide for our families and communities from these lands and these waters. And it's here where we keep our traditions alive, our culture alive. And it is a beautiful thing. I'd like to begin this very significant occasion, this apology, with a moment of silence. A moment of silence to remember all former residential school students, those who have passed, those still with us, and those who carry their stories and continue to carry our story. Nakamik, thank you. Now I'd like to invite Meg Tumashi, an elder, to come forward to light the hudlik, the traditional seal oil lamp. The lighting always grounds us. It reminds us of the important role of women, of girls, and the role they continue to play in our communities and as culture keepers. We commend them for their strength and resilience that have continued to this day and that they display every day in our communities. Meg is one of those women. Thank you so very much, Nakamik Meg, for lighting the hudlik for us here today. And I'm so looking forward to you and the other drummers with the Sandwich Bay Residential School drummers from Cartwright performing in just a few minutes. Today is about healing. It is about reconciliation. It is about recognizing that so many of our people were removed from our families, from our communities, and yes, from our culture, and were placed into a system that sought to deny our people their home, their place, their identity. And today we are here as a testament to the strength and resilience of the former students of NunatuKavut. Their strength, their resilience has been remarkable. It is amazing and has been a gift to all of us. Your strength and the strength of your families, we hold you up. Together, we are here and committed to ensuring that something like this never happens again. We are hopeful that today may be a turning point in the journey to reconciliation that we are walking on together. And with that, I'd now like to welcome, I'm so honored to welcome, our Sandwich Bay Residential School drummers. They have been engaged in their own tremendous journey of intergenerational storytelling and healing through drumming. Please welcome the Sandwich Bay Residential School drummers.
Hello everybody, and welcome. Before this special ceremony begins, I want to share this quote with you from Sherry Turnbull, a proud Inuit from Labrador. And I quote, "It started when it was first discovered that 215 children did not make it home. These children and so many others should never have been taken, should never have had to face the unimaginable things that they did. We need to remember that what happened was unspeakable abuse that resulted in neglect, malnourishment, and a failure to treat sick children, which ultimately ended in death. So many children would run away from these schools, but they could not find their way home. They would eventually be caught, brought back, and seriously punished at the hands of those who were supposed to protect them. All they wanted was to go home." Now, during the drumming, you're going to hear our very own Cookie Lethbridge. She's going to be ringing the school bell, It's the actual bell that was taken from Lockwood School over here. And we also have our poster child, Maggie Tumishi, who is she is a survivor and one of our drum dancers, and she's having some breathing issues, so there's a possibility she may not finish, but she really wanted to play for Buddy today, and Buddy is the premier. So what we're going to do, because she is a very special poster child, we're going to put her on a chair in the middle of the drum dancers so that she can finish the race. Two residential boarding schools operated in the Sandwich Bay region. The first one was built in Muddy Bay, just outside of Cartwright, in 1920, and that was burned to the ground by two students in 1928. After the 1918 Spanish influenza, there were many children in Sandwich Bay who lost a parent, and in some cases, several of their family members. They had no one to care for them. A boarding school should have been a good thing. Sadly, for many, it was not. The second residential school was built in Cartwright and operated from 1930 to 1964. Children were picked up by boat from the many bays and inlets along the Labrador coast. They came from as far north as Rigolette and as far south as Seal Islands, with dozens of little communities in between. Tiny communities like Dove Brook, strong fishing communities like West Bay, Bateau, Spotted Islands, and the list goes on. At these residential schools, many experienced abuse, neglect, hardship, and discrimination. It began the moment they were taken from their family, from their culture, from their community. Let us remember the words of Martin Luther King when he said, "Whatever affects one directly affects everyone indirectly." Excuse me. There's been very little reconciliation for the residential school survivors of Sandwich Bay. They are elders now, and many still carry the scars of their time in these boarding schools. The mental, physical, and sexual abuse that so many suffered as children continues to haunt them to this day. Many first and second generational children are living with the effects of their parents' emotional traumas. It is estimated that there were 123 children who attended the Muddy Bay School and 450 who attended the Lockwood School. That's an estimated total of 573 innocent children. It is only fair to state here that not every child was abused in these residential schools. There are those who are happy to have received some form of education. But you know, in all honesty, it is very difficult to focus on this aspect when so many lives were destroyed and so many families were torn apart. When you take a child and you put him or her into an institution for 10 months of the year, and sometimes for as long as 9 and 10 years, those children are going to have issues. Research has proven that all these children experience separation from their birth parents. They experience high rates of insecure attachment. This includes social and emotional neglect when it comes to caregiver-child interactions. One of the survivors explained it this way, and I quote, "They had lost their sense of self. They had lost their sense of place." many lives were traumatized, with the next two generations still suffering the effects of continued abuse and addictions, there evolved a strength and a resilience from many of these survivors. We are witnessing that today with these distinguished elders before you who are representative of residential school survivors. These elders are giving back to their community 100%, and they are the most active, caring group in the region. Some have overcome many challenges in their lives that were brought on as a result of attending these residential schools or through family attachment. Once again, I share a quote taken from the book written by Andrea Proctor. It shares stories about the residential school experiences and is entitled, Our Time Over There. And I quote, "Residential school survivors have told the truth. Residential school survivors want to be believed. Residential school survivors want to begin the journey of reconciliation." 1 year ago this month, and for the very first time in our history, these survivors were inspired to come together as a group of residential school drum dancers to share their story. From there on, they began the journey of reclaiming what was taken from so many as children. For the very first time, each one took a drum in her hand, and it was a beautiful sight to behold. As one elder explained, "When I went home that evening, it felt like a great weight was taken off my shoulders." I think that's how reconciliation begins. These survivors are beginning the journey of reconciliation, a journey of healing through the shared cultural experience of the Inuit drum dance, a dance of celebration, a dance of hope. Poster child made it pretty close to the end, I think. Good for you, Maggie. Allow me, please, to introduce our drum dancers now. To the far end here, we have Phoebe Davis, first generational. Then we have Priscilla Clark, she's a first generational survivor. Vi Dyson, she's spent 3 years into Lockwood School. Then we have Sue Curl, who's a first generational survivor. And then we have Morgan Elson, who joined us today, and we put out a call for any youth that wanted to learn how to drum, and some of them came up, and Morgan was one of them. And she's also the leader of the youth drum dance, which you'll be seeing tomorrow here. So good for you, Morgan. And then, of course, the old poster child there, Margaret Tumishi, 9 years, Lockwood School. And then taking up the rear there, we have Sandra Mugford, first generational survivor. And I'm going to ask you, all of them to come forward here now because we have a very special presentation to do. And I got to mention too, Florence Howell is a drum dancer as well. She spent 3 years in Lockwood School, and she was called away in an emergency with her husband yesterday, so she couldn't make it today.
Okay. On behalf of the Sandwich Bay Residential School drum dancers and for all those that we represent, we thank you, Premier, for coming to our community to offer this much anticipated public apology to the residential school survivors of Sandwich Bay. To some, it may seem like a small gesture, but to others, it is a step forward towards reconciliation. And it's only through education and awareness that we can move forward. We have been silent way too long. Now we have shared our story. Our government has acknowledged the terrible injustices that took place in these residential schools, and we will continue to beat the Inuit drum as a sign of new hope for our people. Premier, we would like to invite you to come up so we can present this beautiful Inuit drum to you on behalf of your government as a token of our appreciation, but even more so as a reminder of the pain that was inflicted on so many innocent children, a reminder of the public acknowledgement by the government of Newfoundland and Labrador, and finally a reminder of the dance of celebration and a dance of hope. This drum was designed and constructed and painted by our very own Todd Davis, a second generational survivor, and we would love to see this displayed somewhere in the House of Assembly, where everyone can see it and reflect. We have these two beautiful residential school survivors, Violet Dyson and Megan Tumishu, to present your drum.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Nakamiksawak, a great big thank you to the Sandwich Bay Residential School drummers. That was indeed powerful, emotional, and really an inspiration to us all. And now, I'd like to invite Buddy, as one of the former residential schools students affectionately calls him. I'd like to invite the Premier to come forward and to offer words of apology on behalf of the government of Newfoundland and Labrador. Premier Furey.
I respectfully thank you for coming together today for this important and historic occasion. I extend my deepest gratitude to the former students of the residential school system, their families, and their loved ones, and any special guests who have assembled here to hear this apology. We, of course, are pleased to be joined by the President of NunatuKavut, Todd Russell, and members of the Governing Council. I wish to acknowledge the support of the NunatuKavut Community Council and the leaders and officials who provided assistance as we engaged to deliver this apology. Let me say from the outset that the treatment of NunatuKavut Inuit in residential schools represents a tragic and sad chapter in the history of Newfoundland and Labrador. We have a responsibility to acknowledge the past. When we look back at what former students endured, when we hear stories from former students and their family members today, we commend them for coming forward, for continuing to share their stories. Their bravery and resilience are a strength to all of us. Therefore, we make the solemn pledge that history is not forgotten and must not be repeated. The International Grenfell Association established schools with dormitories. Their stated purpose was to educate children primarily from the communities of Spotted Island, Bateau, Seal Island, Black Tickle, Cartwright, Happy Valley Goose Bay, Northwest River, and other parts of Labrador. Children in these schools were physically separated from their communities, their traditions, and their culture. These children were placed long distances from their families and with strangers who did not share their ways of knowing nor their values. We understand that these actions disconnected children from their Inuit culture. For many of you, that loss was severe. Many of these impacts are still felt across NunatuKavut today. Many students were neglected. Others have recounted recollections of physical and sexual abuse. However, all of the students shared the loss of their attachment to family, community, and traditions. Following their time at the schools, some students returned home to their families and communities that they used to know. It was especially difficult for students who carried the incredible weight of traumatic experiences, of grief, of violence, of abuse, social and family dislocations, and mental and physical health issues. The benefit of hindsight tells us that the practices and traditions learned at an early age and developed throughout the formative years became eroded by a system that was intended and designed to assimilate Inuit children into a different culture. There were attempts to make amends for what has happened. On September 28, 2016, the Supreme Court of Newfoundland and Labrador approved a settlement for the survivors of residential schools. There was a financial settlement to compensate students who attended the residential schools in Newfoundland and Labrador after 1949 who suffered abuse. This came about because former students stepped up and spoke openly, however painful their experiences were. This settlement did not come about overnight. As time passed, so too did some of the students. They were not able to hear an apology nor receive the compensation they deserved. However, they are remembered for their bravery, and they are not forgotten. So today, with a heavy heart, I respectfully and humbly offer an apology to the students of NunatuKavut who attended residential schools in Newfoundland and Labrador. As Premier, and on behalf of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador, I extend this apology to the students, their families, and to the people of NunatuKavut. We are sorry. We are sorry that former students experienced neglect, abuse, hardship, and discrimination at the hands of people and institutions who were entrusted to provide care and nurturing. There was a failure to treat the children of NunatuKavut with equality and respect. There was no regard for Inuit traditions, values, and ways of knowing and being. As Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stated, saying sorry is not enough. Simply apologizing cannot turn back the clock and undo the harm. The tragedy of enduring separation from families and communities is something you live with every single day. My words here today do not suggest that an apology relieves the weight of that pain and suffering that you all have endured. However, by coming here today and expressing with complete sincerity that I am sorry, it is my wish that your journey of healing can truly continue. There is admiration for the strength demonstrated by the former students and their families. It is your strength, determination, and commitment to healing that inspires us today. It is my belief, and the belief of the government that I lead, that we truly understand and need to understand the history of residential schools if we ever hope to advance reconciliation. Only by coming to terms with the past and apologizing for our failures can we forge a path towards reshaping a future for our children and for our grandchildren. Reconciliation is a difficult process. It takes time, it takes effort, and it takes sincerity. Today is an important step in rebuilding our relationship. A relationship that must be founded on respect, cooperation, partnership, and above all, trust. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to come to Cartwright today to say that I am sorry on behalf of all of Newfoundland and Labrador. NunatuKavut.
I felt it. I felt the sincerity in your words. I felt the humbleness in your apology. And I hope that the former students and our families have also felt it. It's important. And I thank you. NunatuKavut. A great big thank you. A great big thank you, Premier Furey. Your words were words of acknowledgement and commitment. It is significant and it is important. And our job from this point forward is to always find ways to continue to honor these words, ensuring that they are fulfilled and remain meaningful. And to those here today who are a witness to this, in this room, or maybe you're watching and listening live, I recognize that each is in their own place and on their own journey. But let me say this today. You have been heard. You have been seen. And we are important people. We're important to this place, to our families, and to all of the kin that we have. And I raise up my hands and I say, and I pray that this day, that this moment may be a source of healing for some. We know for some that you're in a place where there's a lot more work to do. And that's great. That's just fine. And we also know that there are those who want to move to a different place in their journey. And that too is perfectly all right. I just want you to know. I just want you to know that we are here for you. Your government, your people, and yes, others are here for you. We offer you our continued support, our care, and our love. This is a commitment that we can all work from very dark places to a brighter future and a healthier future. For yes, this generation, the one that is here, but for the many generations that are to come. And in terms of healing and in terms of care, I want you to know that we have counselors here today to help people if they need that help. And each of you may have received some information about who those people are, and you can certainly take that information and certainly utilize it to get the help that you need. Again, I say, Premier, to you and your government, and to our minister, Lisa Dempster, NunatuKavut. NunatuKavut. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And before I close this formal part of this amazing ceremony, there is a handcrafted bench that was crafted by Bryn Wood, whose family comes from this area, who has relatives that attended residential school. And that bench is going to be placed in a heart garden on or near the site of the old Lockwood School. And the plaque says, and there will be a plaque, it says, in commemoration of NunatuKavut Inuit residential school students, to those who didn't return home, to those who returned home, and all those who are still on their journey. Again, Nakamik, thank you so much, everyone, for being here. We are going to have a time together without cameras and without media for the next hour or so. And we're going to create a space here that I hope people will feel safe if they so want to share their story, if they so want to have something to say, whatever it is that's on your mind and on your heart. There's going to be space here in this place for you in the next hour or two. And with that, I'm going to ask the media and those who have been recording to stop recording and to also let us have our space and our time for our stories and to be with one another. Yes, and before I do close that, we are going to unveil the bench, and I'm going to ask Irene Elson to come up, and with the Premier, Miss Dempster, and myself, we're going to unveil the bench. Thank you, Brent. These warm blankets. Thank you. All the best, and I'll be looking forward to having a chat with each of you, and having some words and sharing some food. We have some fantastic food as well to share with. So Nakamik, thank you very much.